boys and girls, it's Marci Chavalas and it's story time. Today's story is called Keepunumuk, Weeâchumun's Thanksgiving story. And I'm excited to read this story because it'll tell the story of Thanksgiving from a different perspective. I've always read the story of Thanksgiving from the perspective or the storyteller. The person who's telling the story was one of the pilgrims. But now this is a story from the perspective, or the storytellers are the people who were living in America before the pilgrims came. So I'm very excited to learn more about their perspective and more about the story from someone else's point of view. This is an AR book for all you AR readers. It's level 3.1 and worth half a point. It's quiz number 521611, and it's written by Danielle Greendeer, Anthony Perry, and Alexis Bunten. All right, let's read the back to see if we can get some clues. And we do have one. The story of the first Thanksgiving from a Native American perspective. Now, I'm excited and I'm a little scared because I speak English as my native language, and I know there's going to be some words in here like this one and that one that I don't know because I haven't spoken that language before. So I'm kind of nervous about it, but I'm also excited because I love learning new things, and I hope you do as well. One of the great things about this story, boys and girls, is that there is a guide that shows me how to say some of these words from a different language that I don't know. And it also helps me to understand what it must be like where my friends who have come from other countries and speak different languages are trying to learn English, my native language, how it must be tricky for them too to see all sorts of words that they don't know how to pronounce as well. So that's something as I try to learn these words and to say them correctly, that I can have compassion and empathy for those who are trying to learn my language too. I love that we get to learn. So let's go ahead and read the story. Are you ready? All right, let's grow. Now here are two different sections. This is before we begin, and before you begin, and important words to know. So let's do before we begin. This is the tale of the harvest feast shared by the newcomers and the Wampanoag people in 1621. The newcomers arrived in what is now Plymouth, Massachusetts, and colonized the ancestral homeland of the Wampanoag tribes. At the time of this first Thanksgiving, many tribes lived in the same area. They are often known as Indians or Native Americans. In this story, we call them First Peoples because they were the first to live on this land. The Wampanoag people have taken care of their land and tended their gardens for at least 12,000 years. Wow. The Wampanoag people hunt, fish, and raise the three sisters: corn, beans, and squash. Over time, First Peoples developed a deep knowledge about the ways that many plants, often called medicine, help bodies and minds stay healthy. Wow, that's really cool. They've been doing this for a long, long time. So I bet they're really, really good at it. What do you think? Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at important words to know. In the past and still today, Wampanoag people speak a language called Wampanoag. There are some Wampanoag words and concepts in the story. So let's practice these words. So here's a new word, and it's going to show me how to pronounce it. Keepunumuk, the time of harvest. Nasump, a traditional Wampanoag dish. Newcomus, grandmother. Osamiquan, a leader of the Wampanoag tribes, also known as Massasoit. Succotash, soup made from corn, beans, and squash. Ooh, that kind of sounds like chili to me. So I'm thinking of things where it reminds me of something. Good readers make connections. So if you think, oh, this is a little bit like something I know, that's called a connection. So for me, I'm like, ooh, corn, beans, and squash. That kind of sounds like chili to me. Tisquantum, a Wampanoag man also known as Squanto. Turtle Island, a name used by many First Peoples for North America based on traditional stories. And Wampanoag, a First Peoples tribe, means people of the first light. Weeâchumun is corn, and Wetu, a traditional Wampanoag home. All right, are we ready? I'm ready. If I get stuck on a word, I can come right back here and practice that word. That's a good plan. All right, let's grow. I love your garden this time of year, said Maple. Me too. What shall we pick for lunch? Nokomis asked. How about crab apples? Maple suggested. No, choke cherries, Quill shouted. Those are both good medicine, Nokomis said. How about some Weeâchumun as well? That sounds good. Yes, Maple replied. She is such a good big sister to Beans and Squash. That's 3 sisters. They grow together, Quill added. You're right. They feed people all over Turtle Island, Nokomis said, and they have many stories to tell. Can you tell us a story? Quill asked. How about the time Weeâchumun asked our Wampanoag ancestors to help the pilgrims? Nokomis replied. First Thanksgiving? Maple asked. Some people call it that, Nokomis said. We call it Keepunumuk, the time of harvest. Here's what really happened. One frosty fall morning, a long time ago, a large boat with white sails approached the shore. Seagulls circled over the boat, squawking, New people are coming! New people are coming! Hearing the news, Weeâchumun stretched her weary ears toward the sky. Who are these new people? She asked. Do you guys know that boat from other stories? Yeah, that's the Mayflower. 2 winters had passed since many of the first peoples who cared for Weeâchumun passed on to the spirit world. Those who were not taken by sickness found new homes to ease their heavy hearts and rebuild their lives. Weeâchumun feared this winter would be her last and called upon Fox for help. Fox looked up at Weeâchumun. Should we trust these newcomers, he asked. Stay close and watch what they do, Weeâchumun told Fox. Now I want to go back. Weeâchumun, we learned that word, and that's the word for, do you remember? Corn. So she is called corn. She's representing the corn. Fall turned to winter. Weeâchumun and the other plants fell asleep. Fox watched the newcomers come ashore. He watched as they made their way into the forest. He watched them enter an abandoned Weeâchumun. Now let me see if I say that right. I think it's a Weeâchumun. In my language, you'd say Weeâchumun, but this is not my language. Let's look. Weeâchumun. All right, let's say it with the correct pronunciation. Weeâchumun. He watched them enter an abandoned Weeâchumun. He watched them take a cooking pot and a basket of Weeâchumun seeds. Don't take us away, the seeds cried. We are waiting for the first peoples to come back in the spring to prepare our beds. We must grow first. But the newcomers could not hear the seeds. Their ears did not know the voices of the land. Well, that's interesting. Here they are looking for food. Like, oh, look, there's some food down there. Let's grab and eat it. But the first peoples who are here know not to grab those and to wait until the spring so they can grow. But the pilgrims are just learning the land. Fox watched the newcomers build homes on top of an empty village. He watched as they searched for food, but they could never find enough to eat. Many of the newcomers lost mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters during the long, cold winter. The first peoples watched as well. News traveled fast among nearby tribes that newcomers had arrived. Nobody was sure what to make of them. For many years, others had traveled across the sea to hunt, fish, and trade. Some were friendly, some were not. These new people seemed different. They were here to stay. Winter turned into spring. The sun warmed the earth. The newcomers continued their search for food. Weeâchumun awoke from her long slumber and thanked the Creator for another season. She and her sisters, Beans and Squash, pushed through the ground and reached toward the sky. Fox returned to share what he had seen. Newcomers are hungry, Fox told the 3 sisters. They took Weeâchumun's seeds. They don't know how to help them grow. Other animals came to hear what Fox had to say. We should help, Weeâchumun said. I agree, Bean said. Our home is their home now. I think we should too, said Squash. People help us grow. We must help, Deer said. We agreed to feed the people. In return, they care for the home we share. I wouldn't, said Fox. The newcomers don't know our world. Sometimes new people can seem scary, Rabbit said. The Creator tells us to help all living things. This is how the world works. Yes, Duck and Turkey agreed. It's settled, said Weeâchumun. We will send the first peoples to help the newcomers. Over the next few nights, Weeâchumun sent dreams to the first peoples with a message. Bring me and my sisters to the newcomers. They are hungry and need help. The first peoples listened. Wow. So the pilgrims were all alone by themselves, or they thought they were, and they were cold and hungry, and many of their family members were dying. And the people and the animals and the plants said, hey, let's go help. That shows lots of compassion. All right, I see a word here. Let's go look. This is their leader's name. Let's go look for this word. It starts with a capital O. You can do the same thing when you're reading books that have words that you're not sure of. Usamikwan, the leader of the Wampanoag. Usamikwan. Let's go back and try to say it. Their leader, Usamikwan, visited the newcomers. He could see that they wanted peace. Usamikwan introduced the newcomers to Tisquantum. Spring turned into summer. Tisquantum showed the newcomers how to raise Weeâchumun and her sisters beans and squash. He taught the newcomers how to feed fish and seaweed to Weeâchumun to help her grow. They are all learning and working together. Soon Weeâchumun's seeds pushed through the earth and climbed toward the sky. Beans wrapped around Weeâchumun's strong stalks. Squash stretched her vines across the ground, keeping Weeâchumun's bed cool and moist. Summer turned to fall. Weeâchumun brimmed with food. So did beans and squash. Weeâchumun smiled as the newcomers thanked Tisquantum and the first peoples for their help. Keepunumuk, the time of the harvest, had come. Let me go double check. Did I say that correctly? I said Keepunumuk. Let's go look. Keepunumuk, the time of harvest. That's right. That means that's the time where you grab all the food that has grown. It's ready to eat. It becomes ripe. The newcomers prepared a feast to celebrate the first year in their new home. They fired muskets in celebration. Boom, boom, boom. All right, let's go look that word again. Remember that one? Let's go look. It's the name of the leader. Usamikwan. Here we go. Usamikwan, warriors, and other first peoples arrived. They feasted for 3 days. That meal changed both our lives and theirs forever. Many Americans call it a day of Thanksgiving. Many of our people call it a day of mourning. And this, boys and girls, this word mourning means sadness. You mourn, this type of mourn, M-O-U-R-N, when someone has died. I wonder why they call it a day of mourning. I know the story, so I know, because I've read other books, that it's a day of mourning because that's when a lot of things changed for the first peoples. And they lost a lot of loved ones and their land and a lot of other things. And so that's the beginning of that time. And that's why they call it a day of mourning. That's different from what we learn in school, said Maple. It was Weeâchumun and the other beings of the land, sea, and sky who made the newcomers' first harvest possible? That's right, Newcomers said. This is why we pray before we eat. Well, what did the newcomers and our ancestors eat, Newcomers? Will asked. Many things. Succotash, duck, turkey, rabbit, deer, lobster, fish, pumpkins, cranberries, boiled bread, and nasap, Newcomers said. All this talk about food is making me hungry, Maple said. Let's go make us some lunch then, Newcomers laughed. And we'll enjoy every bite, said Quill. I want to learn more about what's nasap. They have that in the beginning. I don't see. Oh, there it is. Nasump, a traditional Wampanoag dish. Story tells more about the Wampanoag tribes. Look at all these different tribes all over the place. Many different groups of peoples that are part of the Wampanoag nation. Here's storytelling, harvest feast, and a tradition of giving thanks. Here's some recipes that you can make too. And oh, this is nasam. You can learn how to make that. That looks really yummy. And maple and quill. The real maple and quill are Mashpee Wampanoag kids who live in Mashpee, Massachusetts. In this photo, Maple is 4, Quill is 2, and baby Tulsi is 12 months old. Maple likes to pick flowers with her mom. Quill likes to fish with his dad. They both love to spend time listening to their grandmother, Newcomus, tell them Wampanoag stories. That's really cool. So this is based on some real children. So that's fun to know. Well, I hope you grab a copy of this book, boys and girls. There's a link in the description so that maybe you can make some of this nasam. I would love to. I would think I'm going to make some of that because it looks so yummy. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, go ahead and click the like button right now. And if you want to hear more stories, don't forget to click subscribe so you'll be notified of any time a new story comes. All right, until next time, friends. Goodbye.